Good evening, and welcome to National News Network Tonight. I'm Roger Ibarra, filling in for Chief Correspondent Brian Williams, who could not be with us this evening due to his assignment in Iraq. Our top story for tonight, August 21st, 1959. On this historic day, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a bill into law establishing Hawaii as the 50th state admitted to the Union. 61 years prior to the signing of this important piece of legislation, Congress passed House Joint Resolution 259, also known as the Newlands Resolution. President McKinley signed it into law on July 7, 1898, establishing Hawaii as a territory of the United States. Many obstacles plagued the 61-year expanse between territory and statehood. 3 times bills considering the addition of Hawaii to the United States had passed the House, but none had passed the Senate. Joining us now is Congressional Delegate from Hawaii, John Burns, being interviewed by none other than Roger Ibarra.
Thanks, Roger. Joining me now today is Congressional Delegate from Hawaii, John Burns. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Roger. Thank you.
Delegate Burns, do you think this bill is a long time coming, or were you surprised it happened so quickly in this new Congress?
Hawaiian statehood's been on the agenda for years, Roger. Some of us in Congress have been fighting an uphill battle trying to get this legislation passed.
Then why has it taken so long to get this passed? It seemed to happen pretty quickly once the new Congress came into session.
Well, Roger, there are a few different models when it comes to political science. For years, the gridlock in Congress has been a significant hurdle to Hawaiian statehood. Years of rumors of communism infiltrating the Hawaiian leadership made it so that we couldn't get enough congressmen to join us in passing this bill. Particularly, the Southern Democrats, who maintain an impressive hold over the Senate, made this really difficult.
So you're saying the nation's policy of containment affected Hawaiian statehood?
Containment and the fact that the majority of Hawaiian natives aren't white, and this would constitute the first state with a national minority as its majority. That can really intimidate a lot of Southern representatives who are worried about the segregation issue.
But the Southern Democrats, as you point out, hold a pretty handy majority in the Senate. How did this bill get passed if they have opposed it for so long? Is communism no longer a threat in Hawaii?
I argue that the communist threat was never really that great in Hawaii. There were rumors from a loud minority opposing statehood that communist sympathizers had infiltrated the statehood committee, but as I've been telling the senators, these threats are unfounded. The majority of Hawaiians identify with the United States, and thus capitalism. The threat of communism coming from a group of people ready to join the United States as full-fledged citizens is 0 to none.
And segregation, is that no longer on the Southern Democrats' agenda?
Well, Roger, you have to remember that Congress admitted Alaska as a state not too long ago. As a state that leans Democrat, that creates an imbalance of power in Washington, and while the Democrats might like that now, they're smart enough to know that that might not always go their way. So they have reason now to let in a small Republican-leaning state. It balances the power, and it doesn't really threaten their segregation stance at all.
But there are a strong amount of people in the House that are opposed to communism and don't want the segregation issue to go against them. Why then has the House been able to pass a bill on Hawaiian statehood 3 separate times without any action from the Senate?
The House and the Senate work very differently, and the gridlock in the Senate is a much greater hurdle. With 100 senators, you have to know who's on your side and who's against. If there aren't enough senators willing to invoke cloture, a filibuster is inevitable, and that just wastes the Senate's time, so it won't come to the floor. Similarly, if there aren't enough votes to override a presidential veto, then a bill might be useless if the president decides he doesn't like it. The House can experience gridlock, but normally it's the Senate gridlock that's harder to overcome.
Well, the Senate once passed a bill in 1954 making both Hawaii and Alaska states simultaneously. The House then never even acted on the bill. What happened there?
Well, that just goes to show how much power one individual can have, Roger. In 1954, Speaker Joseph Martin vehemently opposed Alaskan statehood because they were a democratic state, so he refused to consider the bill and killed it before it reached the floor, even though he supported Hawaiian statehood. With all the control of the Rules Committee that the Speaker of the House has, this really isn't all that uncommon.
All right, well, thank you very much for the interview today, Mr. Burns. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And going now to our street reporter for the People's Take on this issue, Roger Ibarra. Thank you, Roger. Joining me today is this random citizen who's going to give me his take on the Hawaiian statehood bill. What's your opinion on this, sir?
When Hawaii sends their people, they're not bringing their best. They're not bringing you. They're not bringing you. They're sending people with a lot of problems, and they're bringing their problems with them. They're sending drugs, they're sending crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. We should build a wall around Hawaii and make Hawaii pay for it. Ban them from entering the country.
Back to you, Roger. Thank you, Roger. Well, this has been Roger Ibarra for National News Network Tonight. Please join with me and Brian Williams tomorrow night, where we'll both be showing you how to cook some delicious pancakes. As always, have a good night.